Hello, hello, hello. This is Talking Manchester United, a United Stand podcast with myself, Paul Gardner. And joining me as always is Ash Burns. Ash, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, not that bad, mate. I admire your positivity. Starting the podcast. Yeah, not been an up and down week, but not too bad. How about yourself?
Yeah, well, wounds have healed. A little bit of time has passed now since the Champions League exit. So I've licked my wounds and I think I'm alright again now. So yeah, just for the benefit of everyone listening, we will talk about Sevilla, only briefly because a week's passed now and we've played a game since then and everyone's sick of hearing about it, I'm sure. So we'll just brush over that one fairly quickly. We'll look at Brighton in a bit more detail, and of course we will discuss the what some people are calling controversial comments made by Jose Mourinho over the last 2 weeks following both games. So we'll start with the Sevilla game, I reckon, Ash.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, it was poor, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that's quite kind. I wrote a lot more down for this game, and a lot of words I used did involve an S, a H, and some other letters as well.
But let me just say one thing.
Yeah.
What did I say in our preview about Ben Yedder?
Yep, you did.
Danger man.
Yeah.
And I just got one other thing I want to say as well. During that preview, I said that Ben Yedder, in 6 Champions League appearances, has scored 6 goals.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you picked up on this, but during the game, the commentators kept saying 8 goals in 8 games.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I look like an idiot now, don't I? So I checked it, and they were wrong and I was right. Now he's got 8 goals in 8 games after scoring the 2, what might be 8 and 7 now, 2 against us.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got some stuff written down then, have you, about the Sevilla game? Let us know.
Well,
Tell us.
I started writing things down, because I came into the game fairly positive, so I thought I'll make some notes so I won't forget most of the stuff. And then the first, I've literally put first half was shite. That's my first phrase that I put down, and it didn't get much better from there, to be honest. I think was one chance I remember us having. It was the Fellaini shot, come from an Alexis pass. I've got the word awful written down quite a lot, next to the likes of Lingard, Fellaini. Valencia got caught out a few times, and it was just horrendous. The whole game, I thought we were very poor from the get-go. We were very poor, and it just boils down to, I don't know what it is. Is it mentality? Is it tactics? I'm sure we'll come to that in a lot more detail, discussing everything. But I think every single aspect of our game was just poor against Sevilla. From not even the individual performances could carry us in that game. We've had a lot of that this season. And last season as well. It's some poor performances. Being dragged through games by individuals, but not one individual stepped up against Sevilla. I don't think there was a few who put in some very hard-working performances. Lukaku, for one, I thought. I
was going to say Lukaku.
Yeah, his mentality was excellent. I really, really commend him for everything he did in that game. He did try his best, and even his comments after the game was superb. And I've really taken a shine to Lukaku. I love the bloke. I think he epitomises everything that Manchester United should be: the hard work, the talent, the mentality. I think he's been brilliant the last couple of weeks. I think Bailly was fairly decent, I think, if I remember correctly. And I think it was after the game, I said I think it was De Gea, even though he made a mistake, but he can have them all day for the amount he's done for the club. I think De Gea, Bailly and Lukaku were the only 3 that could have held their heads up high after that performance. Every single person other than them on the pitch should have been ashamed of themselves, and I hope they were, because it was absolutely horrendous.
Remember that when we talk about the Mourinho comments later on,
right.
How you've just named literally just 3 players who look like they could give a shit.
Yeah, I did.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, carry on. Sorry.
No, that was it. I'll depress myself even more if I keep going. I'll pass the mantle over to you with the Sevilla game.
Well, look, obviously for the sake of the podcast, we sort of have to make notes, don't we? So we know what we're talking about several days later when we actually record. But yeah, my notes, there were very few, I'll be honest with you. It got to a point where I just thought, you know what, this is rubbish.
Yeah.
we can just say rubbish, rubbish, rubbish several times, and people will be like, yeah, they're right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's basically what it was. But I do have to disagree with you on one point.
Go on.
You said that we were very poor from the get-go. I disagree on that.
Oh, from the first time, yeah.
For the first sort of 10-15 minutes, we did look up for it. You know?
Yeah.
But then that was it. That was it. After that 10 minutes, they got back into the game and they were all over us.
Yeah.
Only for 10 minutes. So it was like we had 10 minutes each of dominating.
Yeah.
And then for the rest of that first half, both teams then were pretty rubbish. Both teams giving the ball away quite easily. And the first half was pretty poor. I thought the beginning of the second half, again, sort of the first 10 minutes, we looked a bit better than how we finished the first half.
Yeah.
I thought Rashford at least put in some effort to try and make something happen. Both teams were sort of trying, but not really getting anywhere, if that makes any sense. So it was just like a very scrappy game. And then as soon as Ben Yedder came on, I thought, here we go. Yeah. And then bam, bam, 2-0, within the blink of an eye. And then all of a sudden, we go gung-ho. Managed to pull one back, but it wasn't enough. So, horrible game to watch, painful game to watch. I think everyone would be in agreement with that. With that said, have you got anything else to add on that game?
No, it was just it just wasn't even that game. And as a lot of people said, what we were all thinking, it was a 170 minute, 180 minute tie, and for 170 minutes of it, we didn't really look like scoring. And that was that hit home quite hard. You know what I mean? To say the attacking talent that we've got. We didn't really throw anything forward and throw anything at them. We showed that we could get a goal. As you said, we got one back. But yeah, just very, very poor, and absolutely, like you said, glad to get that one behind us, and I'm glad there's been a game since then.
I mean, we go on about the attacking talent that we've got and that we should be doing better with it, but that attacking talent needs the service.
Yep. And
if we haven't got the players behind to make that happen, then they're going to be starved, aren't they?
Yep.
And that's what we're seeing a lot, and we keep saying that every week. But let's move forward to Brighton then. 2-0, Lukaku and Matic. What are your thoughts on that game?
Horrendous.
Okay, fair enough. Worse than Sevilla?
I don't think it was as bad as Sevilla. I thought we controlled the game better. Although, that being said, I thought maybe we were comfortable, but there was times, actually there was sort of extended periods in that game where Brighton dominated us. I don't mean that in backs to the wall, but they were doing everything. They were controlling the game. They were passing it really well through the midfield in the final third and getting us in some dangerous areas. But I don't think it was. I suppose what it was is that following that Sevilla defeat, nothing really could have got any worse. I suppose that could have been it. But no, I mean there was a few standout performers again. It was very hit and miss, very lethargic again. I'll keep saying that. Because that's I think the mentality that we've been showing the last couple of weeks. And again, there was a few performances that were decent, that tried to carry us through the game, and luckily this time those individuals did carry us through the game in this time. So it's another one of those. I don't think we've put in I don't think we've put in enough collective performances this season to look anywhere near one of the top sides in Europe, and I think it's something that we really need to address. And I think managers' comments of late, which we're going to discuss, I think reflect a couple of things perfectly. So yeah, not a great game, a few individual performances which dragged us through. Again, very frustrating, and I'm hoping Mourinho will mix it up in the upcoming weeks.
Well, we certainly hope so.
Yeah.
I thought it was an improvement on Sevilla, I'll be honest. I thought for the first sort of 20, maybe 30 minutes, definitely for the first 20 minutes, we were dominating, pretty much all over them. I think the stat was the first 15 minutes we had 75% possession or something like that.
Yeah.
But what I did like about that first 15-20 minutes, and this might just be in comparison to previous games, but to me it seemed like there was a lot more forward passing.
Yeah.
Especially from Matic.
Yeah. Who
was a lot quicker releasing the ball than we've seen recently. McTominay also had a go as well. He did play a couple of good key passes through the middle. He lost the ball a few times as well, but we'll come to that in a moment.
Yeah.
But I did think that there was a lot more forward passing. We seemed to be moving the ball a lot quicker as well, sort of in the final third. Valencia was making some good runs up the wing. Matic did pick him out a couple of times with a couple of good long passes out, diagonal passes out into the feet of Valencia. Yeah. That's something that we haven't been seeing enough of. I keep screaming all the time, our fullbacks need to get forward more.
Yeah.
Give options for for width, provide that width. And it's just worth noting as well that it was Valencia that received these passes. We didn't get any of that on the left.
Yeah.
And we'll come to that again later when we talk about Shaw. But yeah, I thought for the first decent section of the game, first 20 minutes, I thought we did actually look a lot better than what we have.
Yeah.
And Brighton's defence, let's give them some credit. They're not where they are in the league for no reason.
No.
But they were very tight in that defence and very well organised, giving Lukaku absolutely no space because they knew that he was a threat. I thought the crowd were quite vocal.
Yeah.
That might have something to do with there was a change, wasn't there, in the stand? I think they put the singing section is normally, I think it was a J stand or L stand, whatever it was, but they moved it to a corner section, I think, where the away fans normally are. Because something to do with the acoustics on the roof from the corner section sort of make the sound sort of echo around the ground. So it could be something to do with that. Yeah. But I did notice a lot more singing. And I did also notice about 3 times during that game chants of Jose Mourinho.
Yeah.
So I thought that's promising. But yeah, like you said, 1 or 2 standout performers. I think one of them you have to say Matic.
Yeah.
Solid again, protecting that defence. A massive improvement in his ability to bring the ball forward and play forward passes. He made a couple of mistakes, but not everybody gets 100% pass rate, success rate. But I thought he was definitely a star man. And I tell you what, I even done a little player rating thing as well. And I've only got 2 players. I only got 2 players down as an 8 by the end of the game. One was Matic, and the other one Romero.
Oh, okay.
And I'll tell you why. In the first half, he didn't have much to do, really. No. To be fair, he had a couple of shots directly at him, but he never looked threatened. So I'd give him a 6.
Yeah.
One above average. In the second half, he had a few more shots to deal with. Yeah, pretty straightforward, but he dealt with them calmly. And then there was that one save.
Yeah.
That he made from a poor Valencia clearance, headed it straight into the feet of Locadia, or Locadia, whatever you want to call him. Shot to the top corner. Romero gets across quickly and palms it away.
Yeah.
So for that, I thought, you know what? That could have been a game changer if they'd have scored that.
Yeah.
So well done. Give you an 8.
Thank you, an 8.
Give you an 8. So Romero and Matic, for me, were the only really standout performers for that reason.
Yeah.
But as you quite rightly said, like we do so often, we just sort of lost our way a little bit, got a bit more sloppy again, and then allowing Brighton to grow into the game quite a lot. And they started to put a bit of pressure on us, gain more control, just basically like you said. And here goes a question. What did you think of Bailly's performance?
Do you know what? I cannot recall hardly anything of the defence in terms. I thought Smalling and Bailly, if I'm right, they were all right. I'll always commend Eric Bailly's mentality, because I love the bloke, I love everything he stands for, but he has obviously got a mistake in him. He can be rash, exactly the same as Marcus Rojo. But to be honest, I can't pinpoint anything in particular. I'm sure you're going to add something, but
I'm going to.
I'm sure you will. But I can't really single anything out in my mind that went on with Bailly. Go on, tell me.
Well, but this is the thing, right? Because I'll mention the little things that I was gonna speak about. But
yeah.
Chris Smalling gets a lot of stick.
Yeah.
If he makes one mistake, that's it. He's the worst defender in the world.
Yeah.
When overall he's actually been quite solid as a defender. Being that commanding presence in the box. Now, I thought Bailly had what I've described as an indifferent game.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not worried about it. I mean, this is Eric Bailly, for Christ's sake. 99% of the time, he's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
But it just surprised me how no one mentioned anything. Right near the beginning of the game, It was during the period where we were dominating, but there was a ball that got knocked over the top. Now there was no threat really, because they only had one player up front against Smalling and Bailly. But as the ball was coming over, Bailly sort of, like, he didn't know what to do, and he didn't know if to jump or to leave it, and he just sort of stood there, did nothing, let the ball bounce over him, and then of course Smalling's like shit, and he's had to run and cover for him. And I just thought, come on, Bailly, that should have been on your head. He clearly didn't get a shout from the keeper, because the keeper didn't do anything. He wasn't coming out to collect the ball. No. So I thought, what's going on there? So I thought, lack of communication between them there, I think.
Yeah.
And then there was a couple of times when he went to make some clearances, and instead of actually making a clearance, the ball was sort of bouncing off of him. Yeah. And going into dangerous positions. And I'm thinking, come on. Yeah. Right. And then in the second half, what's their player's name? Kayal, I think it was.
Yeah.
Anyway, he had his back to Bailly.
Yeah.
And he just completely turned Bailly with ease. It was just like, come on. And it sounds like I'm nitpicking, but all these things sort of add up, and you think to yourself, hang on a minute, because later on in the game, similar situation again. He had a 1-1 situation, completely lost his man, got round him. And this is Brighton we're talking about, mind.
Yeah.
And it wasn't worrying me, because none of those situations were dangerous. But it just dawned on me after the game. I thought, no one said a word, but if that was Smalling, he'd be getting his head off. Yeah, I just thought I'd get your thoughts on that.
Well,
essentially,
to be honest, I didn't really pick up on it. I don't know why. I wouldn't pick up. But there was, I do remember some of the clearances that he made. But he does that quite often, doesn't he? Quite unorthodox with his clearances, whether it's throwing himself on the floor or he's a bit sort of like De Gea when he makes saves. Very unorthodox. But yeah, I know what you mean. It is frustrating, and I think maybe with the likes of you look at Bailly and Lindelof, they do make mistakes. You could argue they make as many mistakes as the likes of Chris Smalling and Phil Jones, but usually not as high profile. And I think what lets them off with the likes of Bailly and maybe Lindelof to some extent is their ability, for one, to actually play football, and two, maybe especially with Eric Bailly, his mentality. He's so aggressive and he's a winner, and maybe that's what gets him off. And I know a lot of people, they say that with Martial, and I know me and you have discussed this on quite a few different occasions. That because of a few moments, one that I'm sure you'll highlight in particular, they get off with a lot more than maybe they should do. So maybe that's the case, and of course Bailly he's prone to mistakes. He's very rash. Again, like I said, like Marcus Rojo, but I'll let him off. And,
yeah. I mean, I'm not. I'm just saying this. The only reason I'm saying it is because it just surprised me how no one picked up on it. Yeah, but if it had been Smalling, it'd been a different story. He'd have been the worst defender in the world. Yeah,
I suppose that, and he is to me anyway. But I suppose that
I know he is to you.
I suppose that like De Gea in the Sevilla game, you could argue he made a mistake for that second goal. Has anyone really spoke about it? No, because he's consistently fantastic.
It's a good point. Good point.
And maybe that's the same with Eric Bailly. He's usually consistently fantastic, so he's allowed a dodgy game here and again. I suppose if he does it the next 2 or 3 games, I'm sure there'll be more people pulling him up, and I'll pull him up on it. No, that's no player is safe from my wrath at the moment.
Now I think there's probably more we could talk about in this Brighton game, but I think we should move forward to the comments from Mourinho. Reason for that is because obviously he's talking a lot about these games, isn't he?
Yeah.
So we can sort of tie back into that while we're discussing the comments, and I'm pretty sure that the people that are listening, they want to hear more about the Mourinho stuff than they do about games that have been played days ago. So let's go straight into the Mourinho stuff then.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, he's said some things, and people have reacted.
Exactly that. Yeah.
Without going into too much detail straight away, I mean, what's your take on what he said? What was your? Because I haven't spoken to you about this. No. I've not seen any of your tweets. To be honest, I'm not really on Twitter all the time. I'll tweet the odd thing now and again, and I'll scroll up and down for about 30 seconds, and that's about it. So I don't see everyone's tweets, and I haven't spoken to you about it purely said that this is raw right now.
Yeah, genuinely.
So I've got no idea what your thoughts are on it. So tell me, tell everyone.
Well, the thing with me is, it's very mixed for me. Everything that Mourinho's, if I was to, collect everything together, everything that he said across the 4 different interviews he's had, or maybe more, I'm split really down the middle. His comments, I think, following the Sevilla defeat, were very, as I was saying to you, very cryptic, very weird. When he talks about delusion and going into detail about knocking United out with Real Madrid and Porto and all this nonsense, that was a little bit weird. And I've watched that back once or twice, and I think, and he mentions this. He did mention a particular, I can't remember which interview it was, but about that when there's certain people that dislike him. And he spoke in some depth about when he's winning, and he's obviously used to winning. He wins a lot. They're always upset, but when he loses, then that's when the people are at their happiest. And I think he came into that post-match presser after the Sevilla game in the mindset that people are going to love this. People are going to grill me and love it. And I think he's gone into that press conference hot-headed, obviously. He's angry. He's pissed off. I think everything's come at him, and he's just gone a little bit, well, sodgers. Do you know what I mean? And that's why he's come across with his comments. And I don't think, and obviously the meltdown that's gone on afterwards is a little bit, obviously it's Mourinho, isn't it? So everyone's going to jump on it, and every journalist across the country, everyone from everyone else's clubs are going to jump on it. And I genuinely think it was just a heat of the moment sort of thing. Nothing too much to look into. What I do like though is the comments that he's come out with recently. And I did put a tweet out. I don't know if you saw that one. Had quite a lot of reaction on it. It was his post-match press conference against Brighton, and I loved it. I loved everything. Not the post-match press conference, his post-match interview.
Yeah, that was brilliant. I did put a tweet out on that one. Very abrupt tweet, but
yeah,
very short tweet. But I did put one out.
I loved it. I thought that it was perfect for me. We got the win, 2-0. Not a very good game. Some very, very poor performances, and he did not hold back. And I think that's what we've been needing, because, as I've said, and lots of us have said, I think the mentality of some of these players and the talent of some of these players that we've got in this squad is not good enough. The squad depth we've got is not good enough. And he really come out and he laid into. He didn't, obviously, in that post-match interview, didn't really single out a lot of players. Only McTominay, which I thought he dealt with really well. I thought he criticised McTominay fairly. Very, very poor game, but again, he said he's young and he didn't hide away. He still wanted the ball. And I thought everything that he said was fantastic. The way he described attacking players hiding behind defenders, it was absolutely spot on. Again, I think only Lukaku was really demanding the ball and trying to push things and make things happen from the front line. And that's what I really liked, was defenders not bringing out the ball and playing sideways passes. And the first thing that came to mind was, well, play defenders then who can play football, because you know what I mean. You're not gonna be able to play out from the back if you haven't got players who can pass the ball. But I think he's maybe starting to see that now, in my opinion. And this is one thing that I really want to discuss: the whole Luke Shaw situation. He's singled out Luke Shaw somewhat in the post-match interview, talking about if he could have brought Valencia and Shaw off, he would have, but obviously it only leaves him with one substitution or whatever. Has he spoken more about Shaw than that post-match interview? Have I missed something?
So in the post-match press conference,
that's the one.
The longer one, that was when he was actually directly asked if the Shaw sub was unfair.
Yeah.
So what you see on Twitter will just be a video clip of him saying, Luke Shaw this, Luke Shaw that, as if he's directly attacking him.
Yeah. What
you don't see in these little clips is the fact that he was actually asked a question directly about Shaw.
Yeah.
He was asked basically if the Shaw sub was unfair.
Yeah.
To which he responded no, quite abruptly. That he expected more from him offensively and wasn't getting it, and that's completely evident if you watch the game.
Yeah.
And he said he had the same from Valencia as well. Although I did think Valencia was slightly better at getting forward, but he's known for that. He's a natural winger, for Christ's sake. But he said that he can only change one person, and at the end of the day, Valencia had the better defensive positioning than what Luke Shaw did. That was in the press conference. But he was also asked about the Shaw sub in the post-match interview.
Yeah.
He was asked, what was it that sparked that substitution?
Yeah, that's it.
And that was when he said he wanted more of an offensive contribution. And that was when he said Matic at times seemed to be the only player on the pitch showing any desire and passion.
Yeah, he was an island and all this and that. Because from the absolute meltdown, everything's gone everywhere. I thought Jose had released a diss track on Shaw or something, and personally attacked his family and pissed in his cornflakes and all this. And that. But I can't. That's why I asked you: have I missed the video? Have I missed something somewhere to see?
No.
He's physically, he's attacking him. Because everything that I heard in that post-match interview and post-match press conference was spot on. There was nothing there that I could say, do you know what, he's a bit harsh with that. Because he wasn't. It was, for me, in my opinion, I think it was pretty spot on. And I really don't know where. Obviously, it's Mourinho, it's United. People are gonna go down on it. The only thing I can say is Luke Shaw has not been good enough. I like him. You like him. And I think, I will say one thing. I think he didn't do, in my opinion, as bad as people made out against Brighton. Yes, he was poor, and yes, maybe the sub was justified, but I didn't think he was that horrendous. And I'll say one thing, and I don't know how the statistics will work out on this. When Ashley Young come on, he got beat one-on-one more times than Luke Shaw did, if I'm correct. And I did keep an eye out for that. Ashley Young got beat down the line a few times. As I keep saying, every week, Ashley Young gets beat down the line far too often because he's a naturally right-footed left-back that he's playing at the moment. He gets beat so many times down the line. And you saw that. There was 2 crosses that came in the second half that the Brighton attackers should have done better with, that would both come from poor positioning from Ashley Young. But that being said, he did put in the assist for the second goal. And he does. There's not many players that work harder than Ashley Young, so I will say that. But this whole thing about Luke Shaw is pretty over the top, don't you reckon? Or is that just me?
No, I absolutely agree. I'm just thinking then, look, like I said a moment ago, what you see on Twitter, what you see on Facebook, there's little video clips that are shared around, and all you see is Mourinho talking. I think I actually quoted one of these videos, and I put a tweet out to accompany it. Obviously, it's a quote, and I said I would love to know what he was asked, because until I know what he was asked, I can't really judge the answer if the answer was fair or not. So I think what not a lot of people do is actually go and spend the time to actually go and look for the full interview. Yeah. And when you do, now. Conveniently, well, not conveniently, it's just how it is. But in most post-match or pre-match press conferences, you don't hear the questions. No. It depends where the person who's asking the question is sat. If they're sat near the front, where all their little phones are that are recording, you might be able to hear it. And with the Luke Shaw one, you do hear the question, and he's asked directly about Luke Shaw. Was the substitution unfair? Was the question he was asked in the post-match press conference. In the post-match interview, he was asked why the substitute happened, why was Shaw brought off. So Mourinho is just responding to the question. Yeah. I wonder that if those questions weren't asked, would Shaw have even been mentioned by Mourinho? Probably not. Yeah. So I think a lot of people just aren't seeing the full picture. Yeah. And I think it's just blown completely out of proportion. Because it's no secret, Shaw hasn't been that good. No, he hasn't. Though when he came back from injury, and I'm not talking about the broken leg, he's been back from that for 2 years now. Yeah. But when he came back recently and had those 2 games when he was very good, since then, he's tailed off. Yeah. But even on those 2 games where he was very good, that was offensively, getting down the line, running with the ball, forcing the other team back. Defensively, he wasn't fantastic. His positioning is still a little bit off. He's still getting overrun on the left-hand side. But what he made up for, and what he lacked in defence, he made up for going forward. But after that, he sort of regressed again. Yeah. And some people might say, well, yeah, I'm not surprised, because as soon as Young came back, he was chucked straight in the team. That's probably because Jose Mourinho trusts Young more. Yeah. And it's his judgment. He sees what we don't see. And let's be honest, and we've all ranted and raved about it, Young's actually been fantastic for us on that left-hand side. Yeah. overall, he's not been world class. Let's not joke about it, but he has been good. So it's not a surprise really to see that. But yeah, the whole Shaw thing has just been blown way out of proportion.
I think that the main thing, obviously, why it's been blown out of proportion was because he seems to be a player that Jose targets quite often, doesn't he? And I think I don't know what it is. Maybe he is. It's because maybe the likes of Ashley Young are ahead of him in the pecking order, and he's not a natural left back when Shaw is a natural left back. That could be something as well. Obviously, he's English and he's fairly young. Obviously, the press are going to jump on that as well. But I think for me, what I really, not that I can't get my head around it, I found it a bit odd. That Mourinho has stated, I think, in the past that he will need, obviously, after coming back, 5 or 6 games to get back into the swing of things, which he hasn't had. Granted, he hasn't put in the performances to warrant, starting consecutive games. But those comments from Mourinho about him being one of the best left backs in the Premier League and all this and this and that, that's what's a little bit concerning for me. And why, his constant criticism of him, which is most of it is justified. I won't say that, I'm not going to go as far as saying it's bullying and all this nonsense. He's clearly challenging a player who's not pulling their weight. There's 4 different managers and countless ex-players and pundits who have questioned Luke Shaw's commitment and attitude to the game. So it can't be just Mourinho. Van Gaal came out and criticised him publicly as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Pochettino, Van Gaal, Roy Hodgson,
exactly.
They all have. Yeah,
exactly. So it's nothing new. Obviously, it's Mourinho, so it's going to be picked up on more than that. But that's what I find a little bit odd is the comments from Mourinho saying how good he is and all this, and then we were sort of back down to reality now, and he's criticising him again. So that's the only bit of it I find a little bit odd.
Yeah, I mean that is one thing a lot of people have picked up on, the fact that he says that there aren't many left backs better in the world than him at the moment, and then the next game, Young's fit, Young straight back in.
Yeah.
But in that Brighton post match press conference, that's a mouthful, isn't it?
Yeah.
When he was asked, he was asked, because this is another thing as well. He was asked, will mentioning players, like name dropping them, would that not backfire? Would it be risky? That's a question that he was asked.
Yeah.
And he simply said, yeah.
Yeah.
But without pressure, they don't play.
Yeah.
What can I lose? Now I'd say that again, with him being Portuguese, it's sort of like, what's he trying to say there? And it's like, well, if I don't put pressure on them, if they're not playing, what can I lose?
Yeah.
The answer is quite a lot. So he's tried the approach of, huge praise.
Yeah.
That didn't work.
Yeah.
Let's try some heavy criticism, shall
yeah.
we? But again, whilst remembering, he was asked about him.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah. So that's the Shaw thing.
Yeah.
Put to bed. And it doesn't end there, does it, Ash?
Oh,
it doesn't end there.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Let's rewind a little bit.
Yeah.
Because another thing that got people's backs up was when he was talking about. People thought he was being arrogant when he was mentioning about he was sat in that chair.
Yeah.
When he was their reporter knocking Man United out, Real Madrid knocking Man United out. What did you make about that?
As I said before, I think it was something just to get under the skin of the press. I don't think it can be mentioned as football heritage as well, which I'm sure we'll come to. And he's trying to sort of play it off. I think he's trying to downplay it, saying that this is what United are used to. And I genuinely think it was something aimed at everyone else who's been giving him a dig and who enjoyed watching us lose. I don't think there's a lot to look into it because he's come out. His recent comments suggest that he's not going anywhere. He wants to get back amongst the elite clubs in Europe, and he's fully committed to it. From how he seems. So in my opinion, I could be wrong. It was a flash in the pan. It was a hot-headed comment, and he said it just to wind people up a little bit. But that's just my opinion.
Well, I'm not even sure it was to wind people up. In that, because it pretty much started right at the beginning of the press conference.
Yeah.
He started off by talking about how he didn't want to make any drama about the lose. because another big game coming up just a few days later, another knockout game coming up, which was the Brighton game. He was saying, no, it's not the end of the world. Basically, just trying to play the situation down.
Yeah.
That's what he was trying to do, in my opinion. Now, those couple of statements, don't want to make drama. There's a big game coming up. It's not the end of the world. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Then he went on to say, this isn't something new to Man United. And then he went on to say that he was sat in that chair when United were knocked out. And he was sort of calling on his own experience, so to speak, saying, I've been sat in this chair. Now, I don't think he was trying to be arrogant. I think it was more of a case of like, look, it's not new.
Yeah.
I know it's not new because I was bloody sat here when it happened.
Yeah.
I think if he'd put it in those words, it'd have been different.
Yeah.
But I just think it was more of like a wrong choice of words. Did you really want to say that? You know what I mean? But I just think it was a case of the whole thing, he's just trying to play the situation down. And people read too much into it.
Yeah.
I think he's trying to be arrogant. I just really don't think that was the case. Based on what he was saying, I don't know what the question was.
Yeah.
But
it was something about...
let's have a look. Don't want to make any dramas. Big game coming up. I think he must have been asked, that surely has to hurt.
Yeah.
That loss. Something like that for him to have said those things. But he did then go on to say, and you mentioned earlier about delusion.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the word he was trying to use.
No.
Right at the beginning of that interview, he was trying to say to someone, delusion. Is that the right word, delusion?
Yeah.
Nobody responded to him because they don't know what he was going to say.
No.
So it could have been delusion, but I think the word he was trying to look for was disappointment.
Yeah.
Because he said after that, of course, being in this chair as a United manager, it's a delusion.
Yeah.
Disappointment.
Yeah.
So it's not like he was trying to be arrogant. I don't think he was trying to be arrogant anyway. I just think it was a case, he's used the wrong words. He's trying to call on his own experience to say, look, I know this has happened before. I've been here when it happened. This isn't something new. Relax.
Yeah.
And then he goes on about processes and all that later on. That I just think it's been blown way out of proportion.
Yeah. And I think it's one thing I picked up on, and you might agree, you might not. And a lot of United fans, either who listen or who are out there, won't agree with this, but it's sort of it's facing facts, and it's something that I've been aware of, and I'm sure you've been aware of it as well. The fact that he did draw upon that, and I'm sure we'll come to touch on the Brighton pre-match press conference as well, where he talks about heritage, and he says that he's been sat there in that chair with Porto, with Real Madrid. He's knocked out Manchester United, and it's nothing new for the club. And then he goes on, obviously, to talk about the finishes. The thing that we have to remember, and I'll defend this as far as I can go, is at current, performance-wise and results-wise, we are not one of Europe's elite clubs, in my opinion. Yes,
no,
we may be second in the Premier League, the best of the rest, you might say it, but when you put everything together, yes, we're probably the biggest club in the world, with the amount of supporters, probably, either first or second, the wealthiest club in the world. There's no doubt in that, arguably the biggest club in the world. But performance-wise, results-wise, we are not an elite club, in my opinion. And I think that's maybe, one of the comments that he's trying to reflect upon, maybe trying to bring that back down. I don't want to say...
he did actually say that. He did actually say that when he was talking about football heritage.
Yeah.
One of the very last things he said, he mentioned when you look at the Champions League quarterfinals. Again, I think he was asked about what about all these other teams all the other big teams constantly making the quarterfinals. And one of the things he said, look, you get 4 teams that are always there.
Yeah.
Bayern Munich, Juventus, Real Madrid, Barcelona,
Yeah.
and he said they're there for a reason,
Yeah.
and that reason is football heritage. They've
Yeah.
always got world-class players. You don't have that at the moment.
Yeah, and it's spot on. I don't think it's he's not saying that to be a bit of a dick. He's saying that because I think he wants to get back there. Do you know what I mean? And that's why I like the comments, and I liked his response to, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not hiding from this. The next game, I'm the first one on that pitch, and I will face the fans and respect the fans. Do you know what I mean? And that's one thing. And and I think a lot of United fans have took issue to those sort of comments, to saying, that is our heritage at the moment. We're not up there, and a lot of United fans are going, "Oh, we're United, we're the biggest club in the world, blah, blah, Mourinho out." And what you got to realise is we're not good enough at the moment. We need something to change, whether that be the personnel, which a big part of it, as I keep saying this season, we've got a very weak depth of squad. Yes, we've got some decent players in the 11, but everything else is not up there. Is not good enough in my opinion. And it was spot on, and I really liked the way he approached that, and how he spoke about it. And is yes, he did give a bit of a stats blast, which obviously is never great, especially in terms of in the media and that. But everything, you couldn't really argue with anything he said, and he made some very good points, and I liked it. It was honest, it was brutal, and it's what a lot of us needed to hear.
I think because it was quite clearly prepared.
Yeah,
he knew from the minute he walked on that he was going to be the only one talking in that room for the majority of the time. That's what he wanted. He wanted everyone to shut up and listen.
Yeah.
And I think that came from, because let's remember, this was the Brighton pre-match press conference. So there's been a few days where there's been all this reaction from the Sevilla post-match press conference and the interview plus the game. It's been a few days since that. There was a few days of fans absolutely going mental, media going mental. He obviously sees it. I mean, any manager who says, "Oh no, I didn't read papers," they're lying. Do you know what I mean? You can't escape it nowadays. It's not like you can. I'm not going to read the paper. You can't escape it. Jose's son probably texted him, "Dad, have you seen all that?" Yeah. Do you know what I mean? There's no way that he would not have seen any of this. So he's thought, "Do you know what? I've had enough of playing everything down and just trying to." That's what I reckon he was saying after Sevilla. Yeah, I thought we did well. Yeah, we had some spells. Yeah, we lost a bit of control and they dominated for areas, but I thought we made some good chances. Playing the whole situation down.
Yeah.
Obviously, fans didn't like it. Fans could see we were rubbish, and I just think he had enough. And I thought, right, do you know what? Let's try and make people understand what's going on here.
Yeah.
Because it's okay to be a fan and want success all the time, but people have to understand what's going on here.
Yeah.
So then he went on his little 12-minute speech about football heritage, bringing up the stats just to really drum it home, because you could tell he was trying to drum it home, because after every stat there was a pause.
Yeah.
And he'd be staring at the person who's answering the question.
Like the headmaster.
And then the next stat, pause. Thinking, is this sinking in? You listening?
Yeah.
And I loved that about him.
Yeah.
That sort of aura. I loved that about him. And then he was saying, since he's been in here, what have we achieved? We've actually won more trophies whilst Mourinho's been here than we have the whole time before him, between him and Sir Alex.
Yeah.
He mentioned that. He said that on the relatively poor heritage that he's had. And he was going on about, that was when I think he was saying, the media and fans were like, "Oh, he's back again. Oh, he's winning again. Yeah. Oh, he's back again. Oh, he's winning again." Then he said, 10 months since I won my last title. 10 months, that's it.
Yeah.
And he said, "I'll lose one game against Sevilla and then bam."
Yeah, that's it.
And I do you know, everything in that press conference, I thought, do you know what? Fair play to you.
Yeah.
Because I think if I was in that position, I'd be fed up.
Yeah.
I'd want to make a point. People could say it's a meltdown. It's not a meltdown. It's just when you're getting all that crap, unwarranted, you've got to say something.
Yeah.
And that's obviously when he then started talking about, when he was asked a question about other teams, other big clubs getting to the quarterfinal, which is a stupid question if you ask me, because you look at those teams, then you look at ours, there's quite a significant difference.
Yeah.
He did, when he mentioned that and said that those are there for a reason, he did then go on to say, we are in a process, things are getting better, the club back him, everybody in the club is in agreement with him.
Yeah.
And he then himself said he has an amazing job to do. And he also mentioned that, again, he was using an example that recently a new member of staff had joined the club.
Yeah.
From another club, and he spoke to him and said, "Well, why did you come here?" And he said, "Well, I've done a fantastic job at my previous club. I know I've got a big job ahead of me here, and I came for the challenge."
Yeah.
Mourinho said, "Yeah, well done. That's exactly why I'm here." And then he said that his mentality won't be changed.
Yeah.
He's not going to run if he hears a few boos. And I thought, fucking right, Jose. Fantastic. And do you know what? I don't know how anybody listening to that could go Jose out.
Yeah.
Because if anything, I liked him more for that 12-minute speech.
And I did.
Basically,
Yeah.
you know, saying this is how it is. This is the job I've got on my plate. It's a process.
Yeah.
We're nowhere near the teams that are in the quarterfinals of the Championship. We're nowhere near those teams. Okay, yeah, we should have got past Sevilla.
Yeah.
It didn't happen. Sometimes it doesn't. We could have been. Barcelona have been knocked out by lesser opposition before.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It happens. So that's that on the heritage thing.
Yeah. I don't think it was. Obviously, I suppose he does mention. He did say what I've said from the start of the season about City's past investments as well. He did say that, which I thought was a very good point.
Yeah, he did actually say, you know, about Pep's inheritance. He mentioned all those players. He said that is football inheritance.
Yeah. They
were existing players, already Premier League winners, top quality talent.
Yeah.
Another thing worth mentioning as well is coming back to the Brighton post-match interview. Obviously, we spoke briefly about that when we were talking about Shaw. But obviously, if you remember as well, and I think we did actually touch up on it briefly just a moment ago, he was asked, you know, did you get the reaction you wanted from your players? He was like, no.
Nope.
I didn't.
Yeah.
And that was when he was sort of coming out and saying about the sideways passing, about the fullbacks not exploiting the space ahead of them, the forwards not moving into positions to receive the ball quick enough, hiding behind defenders. Do you know what I mean? And I thought he's right.
Yeah, he is.
And I think what annoyed the fans is, why was he not saying that before?
Yeah.
And again, it ties in to what I was saying a moment ago, that after the Sevilla game, he was just trying to play the situation down, and that's what most managers do after a loss.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what he does normally all the time after a loss, to try to play the situation down, take the heat off the players, etc., etc. But after all this big, huge backlash, before Brighton and after Brighton, he was just like, fuck it.
Yeah. It was.
I'm gonna give the media and the fans a taste of what I say in the dressing room.
Yeah.
That's clearly what they want to hear.
Yeah.
And I genuinely think that after Sevilla, when he said all that to the press, I thought we were right, I thought we did well, blah 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 blah. If anybody actually thinks that he went into that changing room after that post-match interview and give everyone a pat on the back and said well done, well, I can guarantee that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
He would have been pissed off.
Yeah.
And when he's going on about, you know, I want this attackers moving forward, I want this ball to be brought out of the defence quicker, I want my attackers moving into new positions. That's what we want. That's what you want to see, the ball move quicker and more attacking football. I'm a strong believer that is what he tries to get out of our players in every game. I'm a strong believer of that. Because you see it in now and again. If you're watching, you'll see it more if you're in the stadium.
Yeah.
But you'll see it less on TV, but you will see it in replays. And sometimes the broadcasters actually do point it out, and they did against Brighton, where Mourinho is going nuts.
Yeah.
Urging his players forward. Shouting at Shaw, shouting at Valencia, go, go, go. He's doing that all the time, because that's what he wants.
Yeah.
But the players don't give it to him. Is that a problem with quality and ability? Probably, because we keep saying about the midfield and defence, poor at but getting the ball out, and we keep saying that's where the problem stems from. So I'm a firm believer that is what he wants. He said at the beginning of the season, I want everything. I want good football, I want attacking football, I want wins, I want goals, I want clean sheets. What we have to understand is that the defensive aspect of his game is going to be here to stay.
Yeah.
But we can have that, and we can have the attacking. We can have the best of both worlds under Mourinho.
Yeah.
And we will get it.
Well,
but what fans need to realise is that it's not going to happen overnight.
No.
We've always been saying it could take a couple of transfer windows, and it will. But look at the players that he's brought in. You know, once he gets, Bailly's been fantastic.
Yeah.
Pogba has shown flashes of brilliance, and he will get back to that. When he's got better players around him, he'll get back to that. At the moment, he probably feels like he's got to run the show.
Yeah.
You know? Sanchez is going to come good. We know he will. He's got it in his locker. The signings have been brilliant. Once they all start playing, we're going to see a complete different United. With some more midfielders brought in, maybe another fullback or two, things are going to change. It just seems like, sorry to keep going on, but it just seems like to me, this whole situation of fans completely losing the plot, that sounds a bit harsh for me to say, not losing the plot, but think of it as like when you're at a buffet, right?
Yeah, I'm listening.
You're at a party. Yeah, you would be. You're at a party, like cheat day. You're at a party, and there's a buffet, and then everyone's sort of sat around waiting for the DJ to say, yeah, food's ready. As soon as he says that, everyone's like, oh, I don't want to be first.
Yeah.
I'm going to wait for someone else to go. I don't want to look greedy. And that's sort of what I think it's sort of been like with Mourinho. You've got your minority, which have always been Mourinho out from the beginning, and that's fair enough because they didn't like him before he even came here. Right, and as time's sort of gone on, a couple of other people have been, it's grown a little bit. And then you've got this whole mass of people who are just waiting for something so they can join the rest of the crowd and feel like a majority. It's like they've just been waiting for something. As soon as that one little thing comes up, and they haven't really looked into the details or really looked at it properly, they're bam, straight on it. Yep, had enough of him, get him out. That's what it sort of feels like to me.
Yeah. I like the analogy. It was good.
Good.
It was good. Yeah, I liked it. And it's interesting you say that the defensive aspect of his management is here to stay, and it is, because that is how he manages football teams. And one thing I will say is, you talk about, and we've spoke about this a lot, lack of talent, lack of ability. I think the biggest weakness I think a lot of our players suffer is that lack of mentality, because against Brighton, I think it was Brighton, it could have been Sevilla as well, I don't know how many times I saw Lukaku either at the right back position, supporting Valencia, or dropping past that defensive midfield role to help out as well. Now that is working for your team, and that's what Mourinho wants. That is why he is praising the likes of Lukaku. That's when he mentioned that, the inheritance that City have had in terms of players. That's why he mentioned only one of 3 players that he mentioned that he is going to be leaving on to a new manager is Lukaku, is Matic and De Gea. He only mentioned those 3 in terms, because I think they're the ones he sees as the leaders. They're the ones who have got that winning mentality, who will work and will do everything to win that game, and will basically run through a brick wall for Mourinho, because that's what he wants. Regardless of how many players we've got who can do a million step overs and take on a player, Mourinho wants to win. It's ingrained in him, and he likes to win his way. And it works. As long as he's got the tools to do it, it works. And that's what he wants. And I think if he can get those players, if he can get that mould and that balance, we haven't got a problem. And to be honest, I've been pondering a lot, and I've been looking at so many different options, and heard so many different opinions of people on Mourinho, and he's done this and he's done that. At this current moment, I've never been more Mourinho in. Just following everything that he said. You even look at the post-match comments after Brighton. We've been training for 2 days on improving the speed of the play through the attacking third, to move the ball quicker, to get in and be aggressive in the final third, which is what every single United fan has been calling out for this season. We want to see faster attacking football, moving the ball quickly. And he said we've been working consistently for 2 days on this, and it's not happened. And he's criticised the players because of that. Good. That's what I wanted to hear. It's not the case of, do you know what, we've continued to defend, try and catch on the break. No, he wants that. He wants those players to attack. As you rightly said, he's screaming on the touchline for the fullbacks to get forward, and they can't do their job because either they haven't got the mentality, they're too afraid to make a mistake and receive further criticism or whatever it may be. So at this current moment in time, I've never been more Mourinho in for me. Give him the money. I was debating with it. Give him the money, get the players, clear a lot of this deadwood out that hasn't got the mentality to succeed and can't take criticism, and see where we go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't even think it's just the last 2 games.
No,
I think it's something that he's wanted the whole time.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, you see it all the time when you're watching the games, that he's always urging the team forward. He's always like waving his hand like, come on. He wants more. He's not getting it from them, and I think that's always been the case. And another thing that sort of cemented that opinion in my mind was the fact that when I was watching the Brighton game, and I do hear it quite often, is the fans singing Jose Mourinho.
Yeah.
You know, they obviously supporting him. They can obviously see what he's doing on the touchline, that he's trying something. Do you know what I mean? If the majority of United fans they wanted him out, they wouldn't be chanting his name.
Yeah.
And that's just my opinion.
Yeah. Right, that's good.
I think that's enough on a Mourinho. Do you?
Yeah. I think we've covered pretty much everything. I don't think there's a lot more that we could have touched upon, really.
Should we head over to Twitter?
We can indeed, yes. We shall. So, as usual, tweet went out. So, what would you like us to discuss for this week's podcast? Oh, right, let's have a look what we've got. If I stop having those notifications, fantastic. Top of the shop then. I just know what's coming already. Jamie Ward, this should be interesting. Well, I hope it was, Jamie. So John Chambers, at John Chambers 31. Are you guys at all surprised by Mourinho's recent comments and general style of play? He's been doing both all his career, and when he was appointed, we knew what we were getting into. There's no way he's going to change either. Well, everything we've just discussed pretty much clears that up, I think. Both of us.
Well, what I will say is the comments after the Brighton game, where he was brutally honest, that did surprise me, because he doesn't do that. You know, usually just plays the situation down a lot. You know, which, funnily enough, gets on the fans' back.
Yeah.
They want to hear him be honest, and when he's honest, it's a problem. You know what I mean? So yeah, it did take me by surprise, but I'm glad he done it. Hopefully, some of the players will take that on board like men.
Yeah. And
turn it on a bit. Style of play. Well, I think the players aren't delivering what he wants.
No.
I think the style of play that he wants. He made it very clear at the beginning of his tenure. The style of play that he wants, and the style of play that he wants, we have seen in flashes. More so at the beginning of the season, when Pogba was right on form, because Pogba was able to shift defence into attack very quickly.
Yeah. And
play balls out to players running on. But the whole team just sort of seems to have regressed.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that at the beginning of the season, I think we were quite fortunate. I mean, a lot of the games we didn't turn up until like the 70th minute anyway. Yeah. So I don't think there's as much of a difference really between then and now, only very little. But the style of play, I just don't think we're getting that Mourinho style that he wants for United yet.
Yeah.
So I think we just have to be a little bit more patient.
Yeah.
I know why fans nowadays want him out.
Yeah.
After a season and a half, because that's just the culture nowadays with football managers.
Yeah.
But I think you just got to be more patient.
Yeah.
I've always liked Mourinho. Always liked him. I think probably one or two times when I've hated him, like when he's beat us in the past. In fact, the moment that made me think, do you know what, I actually do like you, Mourinho, was when he knocked us out with Real Madrid.
Yeah.
When he stood there and said, look, the better team won. And I thought, well, at least you're honest. Because we were the better team, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But we lost.
Yeah.
So you can still be the better team and lose a game.
Yeah. Yeah. Surprisingly.
Get knocked out.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think it'll tie in nicely with the next comment. At Floyd Riley, why has Jose failed to play only specialist in positions, and why has he fallen into the same LVG Moyes trap of loving Fellaini? Well, I'll give a little bit on this first, because I think with comments that he's come out with following both games, it seems to become more and more apparent what he's after, and I think his honesty in the last couple of weeks has surprised not only fans but a lot of journalists and pundits and everyone really, because you don't really get that sort of deep honesty with a lot of managers. And I'll tell you the reason that why he loves Fellaini. I think at the moment Fellaini, this is what I think anyway, I don't think Fellaini is his number one choice in midfield. I really don't.
No.
But I think he's even said this, Mourinho himself. He said that he wants everything. He said it following the Sevilla. He said everything needs to change. And I think he is the type of player, he wants mentality and he wants ability. He said that in previous, and he said that multiple occasions. However, if a player hasn't got ability, and has got mentality, you are playing over the person with ability. Prime example, you look at Fellaini and Pogba. If Pogba is playing in the form that he is at the moment, his mentality looks poor. He doesn't look arsed at occasion. And then you've got the likes of Fellaini, who, granted, plays like a donkey at times, and plays and looks like Mickey Mouse at the moment. His Instagram pictures look horrendous of his hair, but there we are. But he will run through a brick wall for Mourinho, and he will try and do everything he can. And I think that's why people favour him. That's why managers favour him so much, because he listens. He's obedient. He works hard for the team. Yes, he's ineffective a lot of the time. And he's not technically gifted, but he works hard for the team. Exactly the same as Ashley Young. That's why the likes of Young are playing over Luke Shaw. Okay, Luke Shaw might be technically better. He's left-footed on the left-hand side, but there's not many people in that side that work harder for Manchester United than Ashley Young. And I think it's becoming more and more apparent what he wants. In my opinion, I don't think Ashley Young will be there next season as a left-back. I don't think Fellaini will be in the midfield in the first 11 next season. But at the moment, he's playing mentality over talent because that's what he wants. And he would rather players that want to wear that shirt and want to do well for the club than those who have got a few fancy tricks up their sleeve and not really going to give everything for the club. So I think that's why. I'm not saying I prefer to have Fellaini over Pogba, but I'm just saying I think that's where he's coming from, and I think that's why. And again, that sort of goes back and forth with John Chambers' comment there. Why his style of playing is not going to change, because I think that's what he wants. He wants that mentality before everything, but he also wants the ability. And if he hasn't got both, he'll take mentality every day.
And I think that's the right thing to do as well. I think if Pogba was playing absolutely fantastic, obviously it wouldn't be a case of who's he going to play, Pogba or Fellaini. It's going to be a no-brainer. Pogba's going to play. But I think to drop Pogba and play Fellaini or McTominay, I think it is really over Pogba. I think that the choice to do that, I think, is the right choice to make, because what we want, and we say it all the time, and we can't go back on this.
Yep.
What we always say is that we want players who play for the shirt, who play for that crest on the shirt. And if a player ain't doing it, Mourinho's going to put someone on who will. And that's the example he needs to set. And that's the sort of player he's going to look to bring in. Players that will be fully committed and play for the shirt. Now, I'm not saying that Pogba doesn't do it or doesn't want to do it, but at the moment he isn't doing it.
No.
And nobody can argue with that. Pogba fanboys can't argue with that. He trots around like nothing's important. And it's not on.
It's not.
Even if he is playing in a 4-3-3, you look at other teams that play 4-3-3s, you don't see their midfielders just trotting around doing nothing. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's putting in a shift. They're playing for the team. Pogba needs to get his act together.
Big time.
That's all I'm going to say on that. I'm not going to say more on that, because what you said was spot on, and I don't think anyone could follow that.
Can I? Hang on, let me. There we go. Drop my mic. No. So we got two more very quickly ones. It'll be alright. Ibra at Connor Salmon _fan. Okay. Ibra should be keeping at the club next season.
No.
I completely agree. No. I think we can put our resources in a much more useful place. And finally then, should Mourinho leave this summer and bring in an attacking coach such as Thomas Tuchel?
No.
No. Again?
No. See, this is what annoys me. It's been a season and a half. And people already want him out. I mean, sorry, this guy might not actually want him out. He's just asking us if we... So yeah, do apologise.
At official Abbas 1.
Yeah, do apologise for that. You might not actually want him out. You're just asking us. No, we shouldn't. Look at what we have. What we did win last season. Okay, granted the Premier League wasn't great, but we did win the Europa League. We won the League Cup, Charity Shield. I count it. Many people won't, but it's something. Let's not count it. But even still, winning those two competitions are still good. You know, this season we're the second best team in the league. And that's still with not playing great football. And we finished top of our Champions. I'm trying to look for all the positives here. We finished top of our Champions League group, whereas in a very similar group a few years ago we didn't qualify. We finished third. Under Van Gaal. You know, so there's definitely progress. it's not like he's had a chance to completely change the team out to his team. It's only been a handful of players that he's brought in, and Pogba and Bailly have missed huge sections of this season through injury and suspension.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's what a lot of our downfall has been. So no, I think it would be absolutely ridiculous to want Mourinho out at the moment. I really do. That's just my opinion. I think that he before he even came to United, he had 6 months.
Yeah.
I bet he had a 5-year plan
Yeah.
at least. You know, I bet, because he even said in his post-match conference, Brighton, I think, might have been Sevilla, but he even said, look, he's got a big task ahead of him. It's the heritage one. You know, he said he's not going anywhere. His mentality is not going to change. He knows he's got a challenge. He knows it's a process, and he's not going to run off.
Yeah.
If he hears some boos, I don't think he necessarily meant in the stadium from the fans, but just in general disapproval.
Yeah.
He's not going to go running. He's going to stick to his guns, and he's going to fight and fight and fight. And that's what we want to hear.
Yeah.
And the progress is clearly there to see.
Well, obviously exactly the same. Why? And I think your question was, should we replace him with Thomas Tuchel?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What's to say that he's going to succeed?
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't want to draw comparisons because it's obviously very, difficult to compare different managers, but it's very closely linked with the Pochettino, rumours and comments, and a lot of United fans wanting Poch instead of Mourinho. And I think Tuchel is similar. He's doing well at Dortmund, I'll give him that, but they're third in the league. Where are they in Europe? They're not in the Champions League. I think they're in the Europa, are they? If I'm not mistaken. They're third in the league. They're behind Schalke and Bayern Munich. And for me, it's very similar to Poch. I mean, people look at Poch and say, well, he should be manager instead of Mourinho. Why? Because he plays a little bit, more attacking football. Yeah, but look at the players in his squad. Look at that front line that he's got. Players who work hard and players with ability. And he's still 4 points behind United in the league. He's in exactly the same position as us in the FA Cup semi-final and nothing else to play for. And he's 4 points behind Jose Mourinho. With Jose Mourinho, with the squad he's got and the mentality of the players that he has got, for me, why? Why would you change? And what has Pochettino won in his career? You look at Tuchel as well. What's he winning?
Now,
that's my argument.
One argument. So this guy, sorry, I forgot his Twitter handle again. But what this guy, people like him, fans of that mentality, bring in an attacking manager. One of their arguments could be, okay, so the clubs they're at now, they might not be in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. They might not be top of their league.
Yeah.
But if those managers came into Man United, they would have a much bigger budget to work with, and then you could see them shine. But that's all good and well, but there's no guarantee they'll spend that money wisely.
Yeah.
So there's never any guarantees in football. And I think at the moment, whilst we are in a process, while we are steadily improving, I say don't change anything yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's basically
exactly yeah.
I mean, under Van Gaal, okay, we won an FA Cup, but we didn't exactly have a hard route there, did we? Let's be honest.
No.
But the league was rubbish. We were out of the Champions League in the group stage. Do you know what I mean? It was just dire. People were actually falling asleep in the stadium. Not just once either. It was several times.
Yeah.
It was a completely different story. And I just think at the moment, we've had better signings. He is buying relatively young players, Pogba, Bailly, Lindelof. They're relatively young, mixed in with Lukaku, who's only early to mid 20s, 24, I think, something like that, 23, 24. Mixed in with a bit of experience with Mkhitaryan and Ibrahimovic. So he's getting the right balance in terms of his signings.
Yeah.
So he knows what he's doing. But so there's no guarantee that Tuchel, even if he came in with a bigger budget, there's no guarantees that he's going to spend that money right.
No.
In the right places. So there's never any guarantees. I'm thinking at the moment, whilst we're improving, leave it as it is.
Yeah. I'm exactly the same.
Excellent.
Marvellous.
Was there
we kept that one short.
Yeah, hour and a quarter, I think, something like It's officially our longest podcast.
It is, yeah. No, nothing else I can think of. I think we've covered quite a bit.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for your tweets. It's always a pleasure reading those and discussing them.
Yeah.
Ash, you said you didn't have anything else to add, or did you?
No. I don't think so. I think we've covered pretty much everything. Said my piece. I've waffled far too much as it is. So
We both have.
Yeah.
I'll be surprised if anyone listens to this for an hour and a quarter.
Hello.
But hey, we'll find out on tweets, won't we?
Yeah. If you are still listening.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is. I like doing this. If you are still listening, tweet us the message. What should we say?
You didn't think this through very well, did you, Ash?
I didn't think this through very well. What should we say? Peanut butter and Nutella is good. There you go.
There we go.
Tweet us that if you're still listening.
Tweet that to @UnitedStandPod.
Yeah.
Or at Ash Boyle. Well, you may as well give out your details.
Yeah, Ash Boyle, ASHBOAL. Yeah, send them over.
Yeah, United Stand podcast account is @UnitedStandPod. The podcast is called Talking Manchester United. You should be able to find it by searching that as well. You can follow myself @PaulGardinerLP. I think basically, Ash, in a nutshell, I think what we can say is Mourinho's comments sort of been blown out of proportion, would you say?
Yeah, massively.
Massively, yeah.
It was always going to happen. It's United and it's Mourinho. It's petrol and it's fire, isn't it? For the journalists and the media, that's what it is.
A massive overreaction, basically.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, is people. This is probably going to offend some people, and I'm sorry, but this is just my opinion. It just seems very much like a lot of people were just waiting for something, so that they could say Mourinho out and feel justified by it.
Yeah.
But I do think it's a massive overreaction. I think a lot of people are just seeing little clips online and reading a bit too much into it, which isn't their fault. People are very clever when they make these clips. They try to do it intentionally to make him look bad. But that's it. Yeah, I mean, let us know what you think. If you're listening on a podcast app, jump onto Twitter and tweet us. You've got the details.
Yep.
If you're listening on YouTube, drop a comment below. Let us know what you think.
Yep.
Subscribe and like. I would say the video is not much of a video, really. It's more of an image that just stays there for an hour and a quarter. Yeah. But yeah, give us your thoughts. Let us know what you think. I think we'll wrap it up there. Hour and 20 minutes, officially our longest podcast. I'll be surprised if anyone's listening now, but if you are, props.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's international break now, but I think now that we've introduced this preview segment into the podcast, at least it will give us something to talk about next week.
Yes. Ciao.
So we will be back next week.
Yep.
Thanks for listening.